Joey, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
How's your body feeling today after all those burpees yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, it's 50-50, the 100 burpees. Shout out to the Gophers for that. The one time I bet on you shove it right back in my face. But and then 50% just the grueling workouts that Andrew's been scheduling for us. It's been good. So
Yeah, that's great. This is great to add that on top. You took it well. I mean, you just met it head on and just attacked it. Just got her done.
Man of my word, I gotta pay up. I really was just taking a bet in hopes to watch Iowa lose a game, but instead, 100 burpees coming my way.
Right.
So
It's tough to bet against the Hawkeyes in Kinnick. That's a tough bet.
it's hard to bet on the Gophers anywhere in any building.
Well, you know what? I don't know about that. I mean, they in your defense, I mean, when I saw the spread on the game, 8.5 points, I was like, man, did they not watch the games last week? I mean, the Gophers just crushed Nebraska, and then Iowa kind of struggled at home with Penn State, who has been on the skids lately. And then, so if you're judging off of those, you got to think it's going to be a closer game than that. So you took the bet at 4.5, and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you take
The rest is history.
two low-scoring offenses in a rivalry game. You figure that's going to be close. It feels like a safe bet, but then they just they came out scared and they took it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. We don't want to dwell too much on that game, but it was an incredible, just as a football fan, to see that kind of, one quarter of football, and you have a rushing touchdown, a passing touchdown, a field goal, a pick six, and a punt return for a touchdown, all in 18 minutes of football. That was intense.
Dominating all three phases.
All three phases. Yep, that's right. It's good to do that.
And certainly appreciate football.
Yeah.
When it's played the right way, regardless of who it is, yes.
Yes.
But that being said.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But you got her done.
Yeah.
So tell me about where you're at right now. You're coming off of your camp with the Chiefs. Had a brief, quite interesting stint with Hamilton up on the north side of the border.
Yeah. Land of maple syrup.
Yep. What do we got going now? Where are we at?
Yeah, so had a bit of an interesting fall. Moved around a little bit. Went to a different country, which was pretty cool for everything of 2 weeks. Now we're back in the gym and grinding, and it's been nice to have a workout partner. Lucky enough for one of my buddies, played football at Mankato. He's kind of in the same spot that I am. We're training and waiting for a call, and hoping another opportunity pops up soon. So, we're 7 a.m. 4 days a week, going in and getting after it. We've loved the program workouts. I think that before we started doing a programmed workout with you guys, I was kind of just showing up and thinking about what I wanted to hit that day, and kind of going as I went, and kind of figuring out as I went. And workouts, I wasn't getting as much out of them as I am now, and having a buddy to push me and having real programmed workouts has been I've seen much more growth from.
Oh yeah,
from the
you can
workouts.
feel a difference, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
when something's actually planned out by somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, and I think starting early, getting the day off, started off right, getting in, getting it done, getting a good sweat in. I think everything from your day just gets better there than when you wait and you're staring down a tough workout the whole day. I think it's easier to just get it done and have a boost the rest of your day. So
Love that. And you weren't naturally a morning person.
well, you learn to be. I mean,
You acclimate to it in college, but that's not necessarily your go-to if you had a choice. But maybe it's becoming that now that you've done it more voluntarily.
Yeah, I think when you're in college, you learn to love it. I think you learn to it's the only thing right? So you don't really either way, whether you like it or not, you just do it. And now when you leave college and no one is making you go anywhere, there's no punishment if you sleep until 10 and go work out, right?
Right.
So I think once you kind of get put in an environment like that where there's not necessarily as many incentives to get up and
Sure.
or when there's lack of punishment for not getting up and getting it done. I think it's easy to just be like, no, I'll sleep in a little bit today, and it has its advantages, but I think getting up, getting it done, and then starting your day is the best way to do it.
Requires discipline.
Yeah, I will say as I get deeper into my career, the earlier you wake up, you tend to be a little stiff in the muscles, and it takes you a little bit longer to get warmed up and get going. Yeah. But once you get past that, it's all it's gravy from there.
Nice. All the more reason to get up earlier.
Yeah.
You got to get that process started.
Get up. Yep.
Get everything lubed up and moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wake up. Get some food.
Yep.
Don't skip breakfast. I've had to learn over the years. Don't skip breakfast.
Yeah. It's hard to train on an empty stomach. Yeah. You can bonk pretty fast if you come in underfueled.
Yeah. Especially
early in the morning. That can be a tough one.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. So you're one of the few guys, I was just thinking about this the other day, that we've worked with you from the time you were early on in your high school career all the way through to now playing professionally in the sport of football. That's pretty cool. It's been cool to see kind of your development over the years of, came into, it was our lineman academy originally, right? And then that kind of worked its way into doing some training, and then through college, it kind of morphed into training and PT, kind of working through some injuries and things like that, rehab, and then, the combine training process and all of that. And now, kind of where you're at now, just staying ready and waiting for that call, which you're in the same position as probably, I don't know what the number is, but it's a lot of guys, that are right on that cusp and, just waiting to make that move. Tell me about what that's been like. Like, what's that whole process, and what's that been like in terms of how that's shifted over the years, like your focus developmentally, if that makes sense?
Yeah. First off, the comment about how many guys are in our shoes. I think me and Marshall, when we're training, we've actually talked about it before. Like, there's a lot of guys in the same spot that we are, and we kind of talk about how they're all either doing one of two things, right? They're either in the gym consistently, working, staying ready for that one shot that could come up, or they're doing the complete opposite. And I feel like at times I've been in both pools when, maybe like around the time I got cut from Kansas City, it was kind of hard to get back in the gym right away, and, you kind of feel sorry for yourself. And so, being able to keep after it and stay in the loop is extremely important, because that opportunity comes when you're least expecting it.
Yeah.
And the second you fall out of that routine and you start getting lazy again, that's when it's going to come and you're not going to be ready. So really important to, keep your training regimen and be very strict about it. I think looking back, I think I've been associated with Inspired Athletics probably about as long as I've been involved with any other, organization. I've been obviously, training here and getting PT longer than, I was at college, longer than I was at high school. So, it's been a staple in my development. I think I was actually thinking about this on the way here today, how important the physical therapy is along with the training, right? I think in high school, I kind of thought I was indestructible. I could go, from one practice to the next sport, especially in the summers, like you're going all day and you don't even think about it. Your body gets sore, but you tend to recover a lot faster.
Oh, yeah. Recovery process is so much faster.
Yeah. But I think I also, in having that, you also kind of neglect the future implications of being that hard on your body. I think physical therapy is just as important in that stage in like preventative care than it is, once you've played 50 college football games and you wake up and, your hips are sore and your lower back's tight every morning. And,
right.
You need the physical therapy to keep going, in that aspect. But I think that's one thing that really became clear to me throughout the whole time I've been here. Being able to train really hard when I'm in the building is only possible through taking care of your body, right? And I've gotten the best of both worlds here because I've been able to train really hard. We've been through many different programs, whether it was the combine training, what we're doing right now, or just one-on-one training for, as long as I was doing that. To be able to train that hard and go through all that, different stimuli and stuff over the years, it's really showed me how important it is to, make sure your body's right so you can get the most out of it. Right?
Yeah, 100%. And being proactive about it too, and not waiting until something's broken down before you address it, and staying, kind of keeping at your peak of performance, every little, ache or pain, there's something you can do about that. And a lot of people don't realize how those can impact your level of performance. It might, you're always going to have something that's a little achy or a little sore, and it's not like you have to run off and, get every single thing that tweaks treated. But on the general rule, like, you should be taking care of those things, and not waiting until they become a big enough problem where you're not able to play anymore. Some guys like try to push through and push through and push through and just keep going until they completely break down. And then they're forced out. That's not the way to do it. You gotta stay on top of it, be proactive about it. And I think a lot of times, and it's hard to have data on this, but a lot of times if people took that approach, they'd be spending less time on the IR.
Yep. I think you made some good points there. Like, I think people also forget, like, physical therapy isn't necessarily just like when something's hurt, you use it to fix it, right? That's also very preventative. So, like you said, you don't want to be the guy who, especially when you're playing football, right? You get a bump and a bruise, you start sitting out or staying away from, your objective, because physical therapy is important, but you still, if you can be out there, you got to be out there, right?
Yep.
But
exactly.
Also using physical therapy as preventative care, right? So if you're having, some hamstring issues, maybe you got to, start loosening some things up earlier, before you get out there, or, strengthening your quads so your knee pain goes away, that kind of stuff. I think that's done more for me than, like the injury care once the injuries are already done as well, right? Because there's some things that you can't avoid, right? Once I had some of my knee injuries and stuff, you're kind of stuck with it. So you can either just wait till it hurts and treat the pain, or you can start, doing the physical therapy needed to start limiting the pain and, helping your body keep going through the injuries, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think, if you get with a good PT, not just us, but, anybody that provides good physical therapy, I think I'm an advocate for them too, I think a lot of times you go in for one thing, but you figure out there's other things underlying it that you can address too, that actually don't just fix the issue you're dealing with, but prevent it from happening, but also maybe even improve your performance in some way. Like with some of your shoulder stuff from way back in the day, we figured out some core stuff that was associated with that and addressed some of that, and figured out some stability patterns that, maybe we would have never uncovered if we didn't have that issue to kind of trigger that process of uncovering what some of those things were, and so I think that's kind of almost like a side benefit of, getting in and getting seen for some of those things, is you'll find, if you've got a good PT that understands the body and how it works as a system, you'll find some of those other things that might be there that you don't feel, but they're there, and so I think that can be, a really important part of the process also.
Yeah, I think one of those things that's involved with that is, like, it's all about, like, the process, right? I think for me,
love the process, baby.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got to have a process for everything, especially when taking care of your body, right? So I think the next step with the physical therapy part is just, like, learning how to get ready to perform, right? Especially once you've been doing it for a while, your body starts getting sore. Making sure you're doing the right stretches, the right warm-ups, right? Getting your body prepared to perform. I think that's all stuff that comes with the process of, physical therapy, taking care of your body, right? Learning those things that are going to help you get to your, your best performance level. I think just you see it as you get to higher levels of, sports. You just see how the best people pay the closest attention to that process. I know some guys are just so gifted they can show up to the gym or the field and just,
there's a few of those out there.
The Randy Mosses of the world.
Yep.
Those are unicorns. So I think that's one of the most important things, especially you see it as you just go up to the higher levels of the games and the sports. The process of getting your body ready to perform is everything.
Yeah, 100%. Well, you see guys now, you hear these stories about some of these higher level guys that are investing, like some guys are spending $1 million on preserving their body, later in their careers. Obviously, those kind of the outliers too of the guys that are getting paid big bucks to do it. But it's like you're protecting your investment. It's like that's the thing that earns you money, and so you got to take care of it.
Yeah, those figures always make me laugh too, because you wonder how much of that money is being spent wisely with all the new trends and
for sure.
Recovery
there's
and
definitely
therapy.
There's definitely gimmicks out there too, for sure. For sure, there's guys chasing things like that, but and you can't necessarily blame them if they've got things like that riding on the line. Like, you're going to try everything you can to uncover. But I mean, just like anything, it's like you got to block and tackle first, and you got to do the basics right first and get those things in order. And I think like the PT component is a pillar of that. That's the basics, and you gotta have that down first, and you can't sacrifice that at the expense of chasing some of these other things, which I've seen some people do before. Certain people come to mind. I won't say who. Some of them, but I've seen it before where you're chasing gimmicks, and then that comes at the expense of you're always looking for that next thing of like, what can I do to get that edge, and then you kind of like neglect some of the basic stuff that you need to be doing. That without that, like, none of this other stuff really even matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think from a basic level, all you really need is the cryosolar therapy.
Exactly. I was hoping that was going to come up today. We might have to bring that back this year.
Yeah, I mean,
cryosolar therapy.
It's going to be that time of year where it's just free.
Alex remembers that. You remember that well.
Yeah,
yes.
I think that's...
For those of you who don't know what cryosolar therapy is, you got to go look it up. It's deep in our Instagram. But if you search for it, you'll find it. It's a brand new therapy we came up with. It's breakthrough and only available in Minnesota. Basically, essentially what you do is you just, you sit outside with your shirt off in a snowbank, and you simultaneously get cryotherapy by sitting in a snowbank, solar therapy, so your vitamin D by having your skin exposed to the sun. And it's all simultaneous. It's the best of both worlds. You can't beat it.
Depending on what day of the week it is, you can mix in, a protein shake or recovery beverage, or
absolutely,
if it's Friday, just throw a beer in there.
Exactly. You might as well. Sometimes you got to work hard, play hard, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
that's funny. Tell me a little bit about, let's just unwind your football career a little bit. Tell me some of your, what's like one of your favorite moments of your football career?
Yeah, I think you can pick things out at every level as you look back at your career. And
what did you like the best? Like, in terms of what level did you like playing at the best? High school, college, professional?
That's a really good question. High school is a very warped experience for me because we were so bad.
Okay.
And as much as I loved the game, I was often very stressed out by it at that time in my life. So I think football is high school football is one of the funnest versions of the game, just because of just the implications of like playing for your hometown with your, the buddies you grew up with, playing against the rival cities, the towns that you grew up, hating those kids on the other side. I loved that about high school football.
Yeah.
Going into college, some of that, stays the same with the rivalries and stuff. You're playing against guys you got recruited with that, you get feelings about. So that's similar. I have to say college. I would love to say the NFL because I genuinely don't think you can have a bad day in the NFL. I think even your worst days are, as good as they get, because once you're at that level, I mean, it's just a different ballgame, right? But I didn't spend enough time there for me to be able to like cement that opinion. But
yet.
But yeah, I mean, college football, it's just, at least my experience, it's encompassing of so many factors in life and in sport, right? Like, you got to be able to build relationships with your teammates to be able to really work towards your goals and stuff like that. I've been a part of college football teams that didn't have any of those relationships, didn't have any camaraderie, didn't have any of that going in the locker room, and you can see how that affected the team going forward, right? And then you can see when there's too much of that and you start slacking off on the football side of things, it hurts just as well, right? So I think like it forces you to find the perfect balance of, working your ass off, building those relationships with your teammates, right? And, then executing on game days, right? I mean, I think everyone that's been to a college football game can attest to how good those atmospheres get and what makes the game so great.
Oh,
so,
yeah, you can't beat it.
Like I said, it's just all encompassing of everything that is good about football, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. You said a lot there. I think there's a lot of kids out there that are dealing with that same thing, that you had a unique situation where you were an elite level football player, but you were on a team that just, for whatever reason, couldn't put it together. And that can be obviously incredibly frustrating, when you're good and you bring a lot to the table and you're kind of being, overshadowed in a way by, just the team for whatever reason just can't win,
Yeah, if I could go back and talk to my high school self in that situation when I was getting stressed out, I think you really got to trust that, your work, one, it's not being taken for granted, right? Like your team's success should never determine the level of effort you're putting in, right? And that's football at any level, right?
I like that.
But I think in that moment, it's easy to get discouraged and think that a lot of what you're doing is for nothing, right? It's a team sport though, and I just think to any kid in that situation, and to what I would have told my former self is you just have to keep going, right? I think I was in a similar situation at college in my first 2 years where we were really struggling, and there were some coaches moving around, and it seemed like the program was kind of falling apart. And you like to look at it as like, what does this mean for me? Like, am I putting in all this work for nothing? And I think in that same situation, whether it's high school or college or even professional, I think you just have to keep going, trust that everything works out, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean that's absolutely right. I mean, you can't let circumstances dictate your attitude towards things like that. You just have to. Although it's a challenge sometimes when things aren't going your way and things that are out of your control, it can get frustrating, but you just got to stay focused on what you're doing and stay focused on what you control, which is your attitude and your effort. And when you bring that every day, things turn around, which in your case, a couple years down the road, you guys had a hell of a run, your last season especially.
Yeah, we're a very middle-of-the-pack program in the Missouri Valley. I played at the University of South Dakota for the people that don't know. And kind of those last 2 years, we were able to have, double-digit win seasons, win our first conference championship as a Division I program, and, really turn the thing around. And I think that's probably the coolest thing about my college career looking back is, looking at where we started and where we were able to get, by doing the things that I talked about, right? Like building up a team full of guys who cared about each other and who wanted to win and were willing to do what it took, to win. And at times, I think what people aren't ready for the most in that scenario is, at times you got to step on each other's toes, right? Like,
oh yeah,
winning is not always a super pretty, everything works exactly how it's supposed to thing. I think like one of the things I like to allude to is when you watch the Chiefs, at times Coach Reed and Travis Kelce would get into it on the sideline. I think there's been a few clips where they got in each other's faces and stuff like that, and a lot of people like to take that and blow it out of proportion and be like, well, that's a really negative thing. Like that locker room must not be
right,
where it needs to be. And I'm telling you, like, sometimes that's what it takes, right? Like people care about the game, and if you care, things like that are going to happen.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's something that people just aren't quite ready for, or at least are shocked by it. I think you have to be willing to tell people how it is and help each other get to where you need to be. And at times that might hurt someone's feelings, but as long as everyone understands that it's all for the purpose of winning, you know, reaching your goals, I think
tough love.
That's where the winning comes, right?
You got to have a little tough love sometimes.
Yeah, I think when your locker room has that, your outlook on your season is significantly higher than when it doesn't.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Totally agree. I mean, that's, people talk about that in like family dynamics all the time. Sometimes you have to do things that are uncomfortable or maybe, might ruffle some feathers or hurt some feelings, but, it's with an intent and it comes from a place of like wanting to accomplish something, not out of just like, I'm not just attacking you just to tear you down. You know, it's because I'm that passionate about wanting to accomplish this goal. That's why I'm, you know, coming at you with that, you know?
Yeah, I don't have any kids to speak on that, but
right.
I can speak on it.
Well, the parents out there know what I'm talking about.
I can speak on it from being the kid in that scenario.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, you've had a little bit of that.
Yeah.
I've met the disher outer of that before.
Yeah.
And,
so my dad, when you say that, brings up the memories of when I was in like middle school. I was a really pudgy middle schooler, and I think my dad saw the potential in me a lot more than I did at that time. And we would fight a lot about me wanting to play video games.
Yeah.
And he'd get home from work and be like, "All right, let's go get a workout in."
Yeah.
And we would just go back and forth.
Oh, sure.
Definitely hurt my feelings, but I think you look back on things like that, and without him seeing my potential, and even if it hurt my feelings at times, getting me to, you know, put down the video game controller and, you know, go work on something. That's kind of just alluding to what you were saying. Like it's
well,
important.
think if you didn't do that.
Yeah.
You know,
things
like
would be a lot different.
you would not be anywhere where you are now. And there's so many kids out there right now that don't have that element in their lives, you know, that somebody that's going to push them like that. So as uncomfortable and maybe annoying as that might be at the time when you're 12 years old and somebody's yelling at you to go work out, you know, it's hard to have the perspective at that age, obviously, but you know, in the end, how many people are out there that are, you know, in that same scenario that don't have somebody telling them not to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Don't have somebody saying put the game controller down, and they're just sitting on the couch all the time, you know?
Yeah. You know, when I was a sophomore in high school, heading into my sophomore year, that's when I had my chance to play varsity for the first time. And we had about 4 weeks until the summer weight training program started.
Yeah.
And they told me that I was 20 pounds heavy. If I wanted to go and get pulled up to varsity, I had to show up to the first day 20 pounds lighter than what I was.
Oh, boy.
My dad found this out.
In a week, you said?
No, it's just like 3.5 weeks.
Oh,
probably
3.5
4
weeks. Okay,
roughly.
okay.
So it's probably, you know, you listening to this, probably not the greatest way to cut the weight, you know. But my dad obviously found this out, and he saw, like I said, he saw the potential in me. And, you know, we went for a 2.5 mile run every single day.
Oh, man.
And he took me to the grocery store. We bought all the groceries together. I was only allowed to eat what we got.
Yeah.
And there's one day I walked into the kitchen, and my mom had done the grocery shopping.
Uh-oh.
And there was a bag of Chips Ahoy cookies on the table.
And you've been eating nothing but lettuce and
deli sandwiches, yogurt, and, you know, Planters peanuts. Like,
oh, man, that cookie looked too good.
So I remember, you know, I didn't think my dad was around in the room or whatever, so I was having me a cookie. We were probably 2 weeks in at this point, right? So I was like, hey, I earned this. Been doing a lot of running. And he comes walking into the room, and I just remember I was hiding the cookie under the table. I didn't think he saw it. He walked out of the room and he didn't say anything, but the next day we went for our run. He decided to tack on an extra mile.
Oh, yeah. That's for the cookies,
yeah,
Joey.
we're about a block into the run. He's like, if we're going to be eating cookies, we're going to have to run a little bit further.
And that's one where that instant cold sweat on the back of your neck just kicks in, and you're like, oh, man, how did he know that?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, just another example of, like, I was definitely not happy with him in that moment, but, you know, I showed up. I somehow lost 20 pounds in about, you know, a month to, you know, when I showed up to summer lifting. And
amazing.
They pulled me up to varsity, and the rest was history. You know, if I didn't play as a sophomore in varsity, you know, that would, you know, extremely alter the course of my career and stuff like that. So,
it's amazing how some of those things just, like, when you look back on them, when you have hindsight to, you know, the wisdom of where you're at now, how those things all played a role, you know, and how much different they felt at the time versus how much you might actually appreciate them now.
Yeah, I think like trusting people is difficult in that situation. Like you said, like you didn't know that was gonna turn into what it was in the moment. You didn't want to do it. It sucked.
Yeah.
But someone who wants the best for you, you know, was putting you through that for a reason. Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, your point about like looking back on it and seeing how everything played a role. I think seeing how everything fell into place in such a perfect way, right? Like any detail changing along, you know, that timeline could, you know, have changed everything, but how everything just seems to work out if you just stay committed to what you're doing and work hard, really. I mean, my parents had very few rules for me. I was a rule follower, but like good grades, stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
And, if you're playing sports, you don't have to get a job. Those are like the three things. As long as I did those three things, we were fine. And I think like having principles like that and just staying committed is really important.
Yeah. Keep it simple.
Also, like the good grades thing, I didn't care to be a very good student, right? I took a lot of gym classes my senior year of high school. It matters. Like people tell you like your high school grades, especially as like a freshman or sophomore, don't matter that much.
Right.
Man, I think of like some of my tendencies in like middle school, even being a bad student, set me back for high school when I finally had figured out how important it was.
Oh yeah,
school's important, man. You gotta take care of it.
You heard it here, kids.
Yeah, listen to your parents.
Yep.
It is
get your schoolwork
really
done. Yep.
Yeah, I remember
100%.
Northwestern came to the school to recruit me. I hadn't spoken to them a whole lot. I knew they were interested in me, but they came in and they got my transcript, and I was a 3.5 GPA student, so not bad. But like I said, I had a few gym classes on there, probably a few more than
That helps the GPA.
The average kid, a couple boosters in there, and they got my transcript and they didn't talk to me again, right? So
right.
If you're trying to play collegiate sports, man, you gotta handle everything. You gotta handle all phases of your life. You have to be a good person. You have to be a good student, and then on top of that, you got to be a really good athlete.
Yep.
And I think people kind of forget that.
Yeah, it's a great point. Speaking of the academic side, you kind of took a unique path on that in terms of how you got through college. You had the COVID year, but you're a rarity in that you played football through your entire career and got both your undergrad degree and your MBA done in one go.
Yeah.
At South Dakota.
Yeah, well,
that's pretty impressive.
When you play, 6 years college football, you tend to be there for long enough to get something.
Yeah, you might as well do something.
Yeah.
But I think you were smart in that you took advantage of that. A lot of guys that take the extra gym class and just be like, I'm just going to show up to play football and like do whatever I have to do to be eligible. But you did the smart thing, and what a lot of guys don't take advantage of in that situation is knowing that football's not forever.
Yep.
Even if I do have a 3, 4, 8 year career in the NFL, whatever it is, you still got a lot of life left that you got to do something with, And so, taking care of the business in the classroom is really, really a smart thing to do, even though you may not see that at the time, but, it pays dividends down the road.
Yeah, what people don't talk about, even if you do make it, I mean, the average player that plays 3 years in the NFL, it's like 50% of those guys go broke.
Yeah.
Within like 10
100%.
years, right?
It's crazy. Yeah.
There's anything can happen. Football's not forever. You're guaranteed like your next snap and maybe not even that, right?
Yeah.
And so, I think it's extremely important to take those academics seriously even in college. I think it's really hard in college. I mean, going to class and trying to be as focused on football as you are at times in the middle of the season, it's definitely not easy, but football's not forever, and having something to do, something waiting for you when it is over is extremely important.
Yeah.
And being able to have a master's degree, that's, just gravy, being there long enough, getting it done in a year and a half now, I have options. So
100%. Yeah. It opens doors for sure. And then combining that with your playing career, it opens doors too, just the relationships you develop from that. So that's huge. It's a great combo to have. Now you had, in your college days, I was at one of them, but also watched a couple others on TV, some pretty crazy finishes to football games that you were a part of. You had the one up, wasn't it at NDSU? Was the Hail Mary?
No, so the Hail Mary was a home game against South Dakota State.
Oh, that was okay. I mixed those up. And then the other one was the one I was at, the NDSU game at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where I pulled up, I looked back on the game and I looked at it's like 4 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and the ESPN odds of NDSU winning were 99-1. And you guys ended up coming back and pulling it out.
Yeah, so that game, I mean, we had a great start. We're up 14-0. they put together 2 touchdown drives in the last like 3 minutes of the half to tie the game.
Right.
So at halftime, we're kind of deflated. You know, things went from going really well to, oh crap, you know, it's a game. And then they come out to start or like mid third quarter and go on a 99-yard, like 12-minute drive to go up 2 scores.
Yep.
And at that point, you're starting to look at it and, you know, you're like, all right, it's now or never.
Yep.
And, you know, we were lucky to throw a quick strike for a touchdown to make it a 4-point game, I believe. And
this was after like mid fourth quarter, like a third of the fans started leaving.
Yeah.
And little did they know.
Yeah. And this was the game to win, you know, the conference championship.
Yeah, for the conference championship. No big deal.
Huge game, you know, number 4 versus number 1 in the country.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, we got the ball back with about a minute and a half left. We started the 2-minute drill. Started working down into their territory. We're at like their 30-yard line, their 20-yard line probably. And we take a sack with like 20 seconds left.
Yeah. Everybody thought the game was over.
Yeah, the game at that point, you know, we were moving the ball. We were like, oh, wow, we got a chance. And then we took the sack, and it's like, oh, crap, you know, this clock's about to run out on us. We run up to the ball, get it snapped, and, you know, they blew a coverage, and we threw a touchdown with about, you know, I think 13 seconds left or something like that to win the conference title. So
that was incredible.
Yeah, stuff like that, I think, looking back on your college career, it's unforgettable. You know, getting to share that with, you know, I think I had like 25 people at that game.
Yeah.
Getting to share that with all those people is what makes it really special. And, you know, I've been a part of some pretty crazy games. Like we said, we went on the road in Fargo and beat NDSU the year before.
Yeah.
And they were the number 1 team in the country. You know, I don't even know if we were ranked at that point. So,
yeah. That was another one that was really notable. I just remember being in that dome when that pass was completed. And like I said, like probably at least a quarter of the people had left already. So the place was not full to capacity, but it was the loudest I've ever been in a stadium before. Like I could feel the place shaking from the noise of people yelling. It was just crazy.
Yeah, so I've been a part of 2 plays really kind of similar like that. Like I said, we beat South Dakota State on a Hail Mary my redshirt sophomore year. And when you're on the field for something like that, I mean, at least for me, I was in shock both times. Like, I like to celebrate touchdowns as much as the next guy. In that moment, you're kind of like, is this happening?
Yeah.
You know, like when things that are so unexpected happen, when you're in that moment, I was just like kind of in shock. I was looking around like, you know, looking at the scoreboard like we just took the lead. You know, we just won our first conference championship. Like, you know, there's a lot of things in place that were, you know, coming together in that moment. So it was amazing to celebrate, but in that moment, you're kind of just shocked.
It's kind of a blur almost.
You don't know, you don't know how to react. Like you're kind of just looking at your teammates. You see everyone celebrating, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah. So, it doesn't quite set in right in the moment. And then, of course, that was the game that you know, brought about the famous Scott Van Pelt quote about you running off the field. And what'd they do? They zoomed in on you, right? And you were kind of running over to celebrate with the student section, I think, right after the game. And he makes the comment, I think, was it on late night? He's like the late night sports center guy, right?
It was a Bad Beats clip.
Okay. And he sees that and he goes, geez, that guy looks like he could rip a tree out of the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is actually a funny story because I didn't know about this. So Scott Van Pelt does a show called Bad Beats at nighttime where he takes betting lines that either hit or don't hit last second that are really bad beats for people who bet on the game. Yeah. And for ours, I think it was the over. Okay. Because, I mean, you know, we scored 13 points in the last 2.5 minutes of that game. So the under was for sure going to hit in that game. Oh, and then all of a sudden we score. The over hits. It was a bad beat. And I just remember I was walking through my living room at like 10:30 the night after the game. And I looked at the TV and I'm like, oh, hey, that's our game. It's like highlights from our game. Yeah. And then like 10 seconds later, I was like, oh, I'm on the screen there. Like me celebrating in front of the student section was on the TV. And then the next morning, I started having people light me up on Twitter asking me about like tree removal or something like that. And I'm like what are these people talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about. You
probably could have made some kind of ad deal out of that with an actual like a tree guy, tree removal guy, an arborist or whatever they call it.
Yeah, an arborist. The NIL money isn't flowing too strong out there.
No.
So I couldn't get anything done. But, hindsight, I really could have put more into that.
Yeah.
Plus, with it being at the end of my career, I guess I didn't really have time for it to develop into something. But, just a cool moment. I think, as a kid, everyone dreams of making it on SportsCenter for something, right?
For sure.
So I got my, 5 seconds of fame.
That was your 5 seconds of fame.
Yeah. It was worth every minute.
Yeah, for sure. That was just awesome. I thought that was good. Yeah. And you do. I mean, you do. I think that's an accurate description. You look like you could rip a tree out of the ground.
Well, like I said, there was the summer during COVID, I was an arborist. I worked for
You actually were. That's what makes it even more funny.
Yeah, I never ripped a full tree out of the ground, but I do have stories of, stumps being stuck in the ground pretty deep. And I remember my boss telling me to just wait so I could go get the equipment to get the stumps out of the ground because, normally you need some pretty heavy lifting equipment for that. And they came back with the equipment, and I had all the stumps out of the mud already.
You just said, don't worry, I got this.
Like, how'd you do that?
That's
so
great.
I know a thing or two.
I love that.
Yeah, I know a thing or two about it, but I haven't tried a whole tree yet.
Right. Well, one of the things that impresses me about you is, obviously your physical stature is impressive, and you're strong, and you're a large human. Obviously you have to be to play offensive line at the level that you do. But one of the things that impresses me the most about you is the mental side of the game. Like, we've had some conversations before where you start just ripping off like, oh, this is how this team blocks this play, and this team blocks that play, and this team. I'm like, how do you remember all this? You know all of these blocking schemes of all of these NFL, teams, and how they take care of these things and blitzes and all this. I'm just like, I was a quarterback, so you have to know a lot as a quarterback, obviously, but just your recall is really impressive. Do you have like a photographic memory, do you think, or is it?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes from just like my childhood. I think my brother has like the photographic memory, that kind of stuff. But like just from spending time with him and my friends, like you just always recall stuff like that, right? Like that's what a lot of guys who really like sports talk about.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
The other half is just I really love the game, right?
Yeah.
And I think when you love the game that much, you really pay attention to that kind of stuff. And certainly I've like, with my interest in potentially coaching football at an older age too, like I think like my mind just really likes to pay attention to things like that. And
you definitely have the mind of a coach for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of the game, right? Like you can take power and run it 20 different ways, right? Like that's the nature of the game, and I really enjoy studying stuff like that. And I just assumed like coming out of high school, that's how football players were, right? Like I didn't think I was really out of the ordinary in that. And then I kind of got to college, and you notice that there's a lot of people who are really good at football who don't really care for the game.
Yeah, right.
Who don't really like it, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's more of a job.
To each their own, yeah. But there's a lot of people there that were like, I'm here to get my degree, and hopefully we can have a little bit of fun while we're here. And I was just like really taken aback when I felt like I was in the minority of people who really were huge football fans who followed all the NFL teams and knew the players and the plays and the coaches and all that stuff.
Right.
And even at the NFL, it's that way too. I mean, because it really is a job at that point.
Oh,
so
for sure.
There's a lot of people who aren't quite as mixed in with the fandom of the game.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that's a huge – oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, you really can't be at that level too, right? Because, I mean, you're not going to be a fan of the guy that you're competing with.
No.
For a Super Bowl. I mean, you can respect each other, but you're not cheering anyone on that you're trying that's in your way of winning a game. So. Yeah,
and I think especially as a center, that being your primary position, that's an important trait, right? Because you're kind of quarterbacking the offensive line in a way of recognizing alignments and adjustments and making those calls and those things. And so having that base, and then also, as you alluded to, like playing multiple positions or being able to play multiple positions, that comes into play there too, because just your knowledge and your recall of like, you kind of know what to do from each position, and what everybody's supposed to do and the steps to take and the adjustments that you have to make to different alignments and all those things and how that affects each position on the field. I mean, you got to think that's a huge asset, for a player in your position.
Yeah, I think one of the funny things is like the average football fan, or maybe this like the slightly below average football fan, like a lot of people think linemen are just like block left, block right.
They're not?
Block man in front of you. Like, like a lot of people really try to dumb down the offensive line.
For sure.
position. And, I would love to challenge the average person to, start taking a look at an NFL playbook and all the things that you have to remember.
Oh, you just can't.
Yeah.
You can't get by with that anymore.
I mean, it's certainly worse for some other positions, but man, it's not easy for any single position. I mean, and then there's levels to it. Like when you're in college, I thought like our protection schemes were pretty simple, pretty easy to follow. Allows you to focus on the defense a little bit more. Try to see what they're doing, take educated guesses on who's going where, kind of thing. But there's all of it in the NFL, right? Like, the protections are super complicated, and then the defenses are super complicated, right?
Yep.
So you're trying to check out safeties. They expect you to know all the coverages that team is going to run. When I got to Kansas City, I never once ever talked about a coverage in my life. I was like, that's not for offensive linemen. We don't need to know that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to know what the run fits are in these coverages. Like, is this safety going to come into the box or not?
Right. It's way more detailed.
What blitzes do they run out of this coverage? Like it's stuff that it takes severe time to get used to and get down. And, that's why you see any rookie out there playing in the NFL, man, it's tough.
Oh,
right?
You're swimming. You're swimming. I mean, I've worked with some, quarterbacks on that stuff, and we've gotten on to some, worked with some former NFL quarterbacks who've brought in their playbooks and that kind of thing. And it's like, these playbooks are this thick, and 40 pages of it is protection schemes. Yeah. It's like, holy cow, that is a lot to digest, first of all, but then to remember it all is just crazy.
I think we had about 40 protections when I got my playbook for Kansas City.
That's ridiculous.
It's crazy because
I think we had about 5 in college.
Yeah, we had less than that.
Yeah.
I think we actually had 3. 3, maybe 4. And it's funny because there's a lot of
I'm counting sprint out.
Yeah.
So
we had our 2 play action ones, a full slide and a half slide.
Yep.
It doesn't get any easier than that. But a lot of these protections are extremely similar.
Right.
But then you take a protection, you add to it, and it's a detail that it might be very minute, but it matters
but it's critical.
Lot.
Yeah, 100%.
Determine whether your quarterback's alive or not.
Yeah.
Whether you remember these details. And so those protections really matter. And I mean, the defenses in the NFL, these people are, obviously the best of the best, right? So as many ways as you can attack a defense as you can, right? Like you're gonna do it. So that's where all those protections and different styles come from. And I mean, you need them because even going from college to the NFL, like the defenses, it's ridiculous how much better they get. So you need as many tools and as many weapons as you can have to be able to score points at that level.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's super interesting watching too, just the evolution of the game, like how, we talk about the level of detail they're at, but there's still so much that gets changed and evolves, and people are innovating and doing things differently. And there's always this just constant chess match going on of like, okay, they're going to do this, then we're going to do that. And it's kind of, there's some ebb and flow to it too. I think you saw, 10, 12 years ago, the passing game was just like completely, that was everything, now it's kind of trending back a little towards more of the run game a little bit, because the defense has figured out how to combat, and then it's like, okay, well, if they're going to do all that to stop a pass, like now we can run the ball better, and so they're always kind of battling that way. What do you prefer as an offensive lineman? What's your preference? Are you a pass protection guy or just a road grader? I know what I would say based off of watching your film, but
yeah, I mean every lineman is going to tell you that they want to run the ball, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's the basis of everything we do is right. Like in college, our motto was literally run. That's all it was. Like we want to run the ball every chance we get.
That's pretty simple. One word.
Yeah, and I think like what you were talking about with NFL styles, trend is the word, right? Like there's lots of trends.
Yeah.
Things that trend up and trend down, and it's also a copycat league, right? So that's where a lot of those trends come from, right? Like especially in the NFL with the coaching trees, right? Like so many coaches coming from just
the tush push is a perfect example of that. Yes.
Yeah. So
one team does it, and then everybody does.
Yeah, it's easy for trends to start because you know, like for example, Kevin O'Connell came from Sean McVay's tree, right?
Right.
Well, they do a lot of the same things, right? Because that's how they were brought up. And so the NFL, it does become a copycat league. But you find the coaches like the Shanahans and the McVays of the league who can innovate and change their style consistently. Those are some of the teams that have been able to score the most points consistently for a long time now, right? And been playing winning football. Personally, I grew a very fond liking to outside zone just from how it transformed our offense my senior year of college. And I think that there's a lot of different ways to run it. I think you can stress the defense in a lot of ways. And even if it's called an outside zone, it could still hit right up the middle. And I just think like that's what makes the place so hard to defend.
Oh yeah, you create so many lanes.
Yep, yeah. I love getting out of my stance and running to reach a gap, and letting that defensive lineman fight me to try to keep that gap, and then the ball cuts right behind you, and you just get to go run them towards the sideline. I think stuff like that, playing football like that, where you can just cut it loose and run off the ball, is when football's the most fun.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
No, don't get me wrong. I love good old-fashioned power, especially as a guard. I love pulling up the hole and going, smacking some linebacker. But, when you can find ways to make defenses have to, adjust to what you're doing when you, like, run the outside zone so well.
Yeah.
I think that's when football becomes the most fun. So you can definitely appreciate things like goal line football where it's just line up and, just a battle of wills with the guy across from you. But, that's why football is so great. There's so many different aspects to the game, so many different things to love about it.
Yeah, no doubt. You're an interesting guy too, because I think you have a little bit of you're one of those guys that kind of like flips a switch when you play. It looks like to me when you watch on film. You and I here, we're having a nice conversation, and you're very polite, well spoken, very nice guy from all I've known of you of 9 years.
Yeah.
But I've seen you really get nasty with some people on the field before, and I love it. You know what? I've one play comes to mind where I think it was an outside zone play where you got up on a nose guard from one of the schools. I think you know the play I'm talking about, and you ran him about 9 yards down the field and then pancaked him into the ground, and then maybe had a few comments to share with him after that.
It's funny because I'm actually not much of a trash talker. Like,
okay,
when I was in college, like especially like just being the center in general, I think you're so worried about getting guys in the huddle, right? Like that play clock starts fast,
sure.
So you got to get the call and you got to get up to that ball.
Yeah.
So, I'd talk trash from time to time, but I was just so worried about getting all of our guys in the huddle. Sure. After a play.
And I don't mean to say you're a big trash talker. I just mean you got a little bit of a, which is a good trait especially in a lineman. You got to have a little nasty in you. I just see that come across, and it's just interesting to me how, I think the perception is with a lot of what we would call outsiders that people aren't involved with the game are like, geez, that guy must be a real jerk, like watching him play and just burying people on the ground and just being nasty with them. And then you walk off the field and you meet these guys and they're like, oh, hey, how you doing? It's like, oh, that's not what I was expecting, from what I watched on the field.
Yeah. I think you gotta find it within you somehow, some way. I think everyone has their different way of doing it. But, for me, I think you got to understand how much work you put into, what you do. And if you don't go out there and cut it loose and, play as violent as possible, you're doing a disservice to yourself and your teammates, right? There's other factors at play too. I think, like, you just find ways to get offended at the other team, right? Like, this guy lining up across from me, he thinks he's better than me. Like, he thinks he's going to go and sack the quarterback and do his stupid little celebration behind me. And, you got to let things like that piss you off a little bit. And so you make sure it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And then I think, like, one of the more interesting dynamics is, like, when you get to the NFL and you're trying out to make a team, right? Like, there's millions of dollars on the line here, right? Like,
oh yeah,
you're going to one-on-ones. It's you and the guy across from you, and you're trying to make, wealth that's going to last a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
And so the stakes get really high, and it gets really competitive. And if you don't let a side of you come out that's willing to do whatever it takes to win a rep, or to help your team win the game, to beat the guy across from you, you're not going to win, right? The hungriest dog is going to eat, especially at that level. And if you want to go out there and hand out and give out a bunch of high fives and, oh, this is fun, I mean, yeah, you might have fun, but you're not going to win, and it's not going to last.
Yeah,
so,
100%. That's a great comment. The hungriest dog is going to eat.
Yeah.
I think there's some truth to that, because you see that not in everybody, but sometimes you see the guy that gets the big contract and then it's like kind of levels off or fades a little bit after that, because it's like, for whatever reason, they lose a little bit of that. They're chasing that, and they get it, and it's like, okay, now I'm there. Now I don't have to quite go as hard anymore, and then they lose that edge. You see that a lot.
Yep. You see it in football a lot, and I say the hungriest dog eats, which is funny, because when you get to the NFL, these guys are good enough. Sometimes it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Like, no matter how hungry you are, if you're blocking Myles Garrett one-on-one, probably not going to win.
Yeah.
Maybe 1 out of 10 times you'll win.
Yeah.
So that's there. There are nuances to that saying, obviously, but the funny thing, you also see it in MMA fighters. That's like one of the places where you see that the most, because
I think it happens across the board in sports and in anything, really.
Yeah. I mean, when you're putting that much time into something, I like to use MMA as the example, because as far as like training, what you're doing to your body, that's got to be probably one of the hardest things to do at the professional level. I mean, so like once you've made that money and you're in a spot where it's like, I don't have to do this anymore if I don't want to.
Yep.
Like, especially because a lot of those guys are, fighting, being on the streets. Like, a lot of them don't have a lot of money, right? Like they're fighting for their livelihood. So once you're not, it's like, that's a brutal sport to be in. So it's like, if you don't have to do it, it's hard for a lot of guys to justify like continuing that
stepping and getting kicked in the face.
Yeah. I mean, those dudes they're certified killers, man.
Yeah.
And stepping in an octagon with them for 15 minutes or 25 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. That takes a certain level of courage, for sure. That's why not many people do it. That's definitely a tough one.
Yeah. I think about when I'm done playing football, I want to keep doing something athletic. There's really two ways I can go with this, right? Thought about joining an MMA camp, training, getting some of this, this lineman fat off, right? Maybe do one fight. Maybe do an amateur like one.
Ooh, I didn't know. This is news to me.
Fun. Yeah, that'd be a lot of, I don't know if it would be a lot of fun if I got knocked out. Probably not. But
line it up. 2029. I know some people. Yeah.
Or we could just keep going with the pickleball route.
Pickleballs,
those are two very different options, so we'll see how I'm feeling.
Although I can tell you, pickleball is also a dangerous sport.
Yeah, I heard you tried to use the family jewels as a paddle.
It's not good, dude. worst shot ever. I've had knees, I've had footballs, I've had helmets even get real close, and this was the worst. A little plastic ball moving quickly, direct shot. It was ugly. I was motionless on the ground for, I think, it felt like 10 minutes, but it was probably a good 2 minutes where I just couldn't even move. It was bad.
Yeah, any sport you play, you're running that risk.
Absolutely.
Especially when you like to play up at the net. One of the only ways to get people to back off sometimes is just hit it at them as hard as you can.
Right.
That can land in some pretty unfortunate areas when you play at the net like that. But yeah.
So we're trying to decide. We're weighing our options between MMA and pickleball now.
Yeah, if I'm feeling really soft, we'll probably just skip the MMA thing and go to pickleball.
Yeah.
Or who knows? In 5 years, my body might just hurt, and I'm like, that was a stupid idea to even think about doing an MMA camp.
Yeah.
But I do think football players, when they quit playing football, they go one of two ways, right?
Yep.
You blow up like a blimp, or you look like a dang skeleton after, right? So I think being proactive about it in an MMA camp would go a long ways in starting off a healthy lifestyle after my playing career.
Oh, yeah. We used to work with a guy who he played at Gustavus, and he was under-recruited out of high school because he wasn't huge yet. I mean, he was like 6'5", 240 or something like that. So good size, but not real big. And he grew, I think it was like 4 or 5 inches, and gained 100 pounds in college. And so he was like 6'9", 340 or something when he graduated, and he got picked up, with a couple of professional teams for a little while. We worked with him a little while, and then when he was done playing, he took up marathon running. I don't think you're going that route, but he he just said he remembered, going to the start line of his first race, and it's him. He's still like, he'd lost a lot of weight, but he was still like 270 or something like that, And he's like, I'm 100 pounds heavier than every other person in this race right now.
Yeah, I got some theories about running.
Oh, give me your theories. Give me your theories.
I think, I haven't spoken to a single cross-country athlete who like genuinely enjoys running.
Is that right?
It's like, I talk to a lot of these people, and I have the utmost respect for their sport. It's difficult. I wouldn't do it. I can't do it. But it's funny because it's like, I hear a lot of cross-country athletes talking about their sport, and they're like, oh, coach made us run this like 4-mile loop today. It was awful. And I'm like, you know what sport you do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of baked in, right? But I like I said, my dad used to have me running a couple miles a day back in high school. Nowadays, if I run like a mile and a half, my joints just scream at me.
Yeah.
That being said, I think if I lost some weight up front, it'd be a little bit easier to get into the running.
For sure.
But like I just like running marathons. Like, do people enjoy doing that? Like, is like
some people do.
Where does that come from? Is like,
some people do. Some people enjoy it so much that they run longer than marathons.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
but
ultra marathons.
Yeah, I mean, running. It's not for everybody, but even for the people that it is for, I feel like most of them don't even enjoy it. They're just willing themselves. It's funny, like when I go on a run, when I'm actually in shape to do distance running, like the first like quarter, half a mile is like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? I should just turn around and go home. Yeah. Then you're in the middle, and you're like, all right, we're committed to this. We're in it. And then you get to the end, and it's like, all right, let's sprint this thing out. You're fired up about it. You get to the end of the run, and then you're just back to dying again. It's just like, it's cyclical. Like it's the same thing every time. It's the same thing every time.
Yeah,
it's like, maybe I'm different, but I feel like that's how everyone feels when they start running distance.
There's some element to that. Yeah, for sure.
But it's good for you. You can't deny that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Joey, this has been awesome. We're hoping that call comes soon. Yeah. Where can people, if they want to kind of follow along with what you got going on, where can they find you?
Yeah, so my phone number is Social Security, and no, I'm just kidding. My Instagram handle is Joey Lombard _76. I tend to keep people updated on that eventually. Yeah. We have the UFL season around the corner, and we hope that could be a really good opportunity up ahead for us. And
absolutely, that's become a big deal now.
Yeah. So that's kind of the next avenue we're hoping for. Obviously, an NFL team could still call this year, and God willing, we'd love to do that. But whatever's next, whatever it is. I mean, I've talked to some indoor football league teams. And
really?
Yeah. If that's the only option, like I said, I love this game. I'm going to chase it as long as I can from a playing perspective. And I for anyone that has supported me the whole way or wants to, I know it means the world to me. That's why I do it. I think everyone has to have their why, and my support system is definitely mine. But my social media is a great way to follow along with it. And like I said, I appreciate everyone who does follow along already. So it's
awesome.
The ride's not over. It's going to get probably even crazier than it has been already. So we'll see. You never know.
And a lot can change in a heartbeat too. Yeah. I mean, you could be on play a season in the UFL and then be on an NFL team and then be, somewhere else. I mean, it's a lot of moving around for a lot of guys. Yeah,
the game takes you a lot of crazy places. I would have never had any intention of ever living in Canada. Not because I don't like Canada, just like that's just not me.
Shout out Canada.
Yeah, shout out Canada. even though you cut me after 2 weeks. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, you know, like the game takes you to crazy places and like you'll never guess. That's the best part, right? It's like, you know, I'll just be ready whenever it happens, and I can't tell you what's next, but I'm sure it'll be great, and I'm sure, you know, I'll learn a lot and experience a lot of cool stuff from it, and that's exciting, right? That keeps you going. It's a little extra, you know, boost to your motivation.
Absolutely. All right. Well, speaking of pickleball, I got to go to our pickleball league tournament. Starts in a few minutes here.
I'm excited.
So I got to jump off.
Probably stick around and watch.
Don't watch. You don't want to watch.
Hopefully you don't get Bob and Denise because they gave us a whooping last time.
They're tough. They're tough. Bob and Denise are really, really tough.
Yeah.
They're you know, Hannah and I, it's our first time going around, and we're still learning. Yeah. We're improving. But you know,
I do have a closing
process.
Thought.
Yeah, give me your closing thought.
This is my MBA mind. You know, I always thinking.
Hit me with the MBA.
Business opportunities, right?
Yes.
This room's pretty cool. This is a nice big table.
Absolutely.
You know what this room could double as?
What's that?
We could host private, high-stakes poker games.
And
then we'll have these really cool glasses where you can see the other people's cards. We'll invite, like, NBA players and stuff.
How long do you think that's going to last, Joey?
No one would expect that that's going on, right?
I think that'd last about a week.
I mean, they're not going to know. And, you know, I think it's a good room for it.
Yeah, for sure. Little secret hidden cameras. And oh, that's interesting. That took an MBA to come up with that, huh?
Hey, I'm always thinking of business opportunities, right?
That sounds more criminal than business.
I had a minor in criminal justice, actually.
Hey, we are in Minnesota, so you know we won't go down that rabbit hole right now. But anyway, all right, man. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on here. It's been really cool talking to you for this time here we've had together, and yeah, best of luck, man.
Thank you.
You got good things ahead, no matter which way you go. So you got a lot going. So. Awesome.
Appreciate it.
All right, man. Bye, everybody.